So the UK is one of the biggest real estate markets in the world, but is it still worth investing in today? That's what we're going to find out. So today I'm joined with Hudhaifa.
Hudhaifa.
And how long have you been?
You've been in Saudi, bro. Say the name right.
Okay.
Say the name
so
right.
Today I'm joined by Hudhaifa.
There you go.
And you have been in real estate for how long?
Since I was 22, so about 5 years now.
Okay.
5 years.
And
not as long as people think.
Okay. But it's enough time to be very well acquainted with the industry and everything.
Yeah, 100%. More than enough time to learn everything I've needed to know, and developed in my career as well, to the point where I'm now managing a lot of areas for a big company here in Manchester.
Mm-hmm. I see. And so you're basically, most of your work has been in like real estate property management.
I started as a negotiator, which is where most people start, like as a viewing representative who shows people around the houses to try and get them to buy the properties. You then sort of move up into the senior negotiator role, where you're dealing in bigger properties, like million plus properties. You then end up, the natural role will normally be to either an assistant manager in a branch, or maybe as a valuer expert, so someone that can go out and value properties, which I've also done. And to be fair, that's still a major part of my job description today. But I also now manage some of the valuers as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting.
Manage the areas, manage the KPIs, look at lead generation. That's a big part of my role on a daily basis as well.
Mm-hmm. So you have been working in real estate or involved with real estate since like 2020, around 2020.
Yeah, around about that. I want to say
so
maybe
COVID time.
Just after COVID.
After COVID.
So just when things started to open up. Was it 2021 February time? I think that was it when
probably
I dipped my
something
foot in.
like that, or maybe late 2021.
I can't even remember. I cannot even remember.
Okay, so at that time the real estate market was like peaking, right? It was going crazy.
It was on fire.
Yeah.
On fire. Everything you brought on was going on, was coming onto the market at a very high price. You tended to find as well, because the interest rates were so low, people could afford a lot more on their affordability scale. So they were coming in and buying whatever they could. Now those people today are suffering because they went on to maybe
they were non-fixed rates.
They would go on a fixed rate at about 1% interest rate. And maybe that would be 2 years or 3 years, whatever it may be. That's then come to an end, and it's shot up to
the real rate, which 4.5 or something.
Right at this moment, the current Bank of England rate is averaging at 4.5%, which means most people mortgage payments may have been back then on a house that's worth £450,000. It may have been around £700 a month. It's now £1,100 a month.
So they probably didn't like budget for that. And it's like unexpected hit to their lifestyle.
Yep. The people that can afford to stay there will, but if I'm being honest with you, probably the majority of people can't afford to do that, especially if it's only one salary coming into a house. And those are the people that are now selling up again, which is a shame, because they're selling it at a similar price that they purchased.
So are these like repos, or they're selling them?
No, they're just selling them and downsizing.
Okay, so it's not too bad. And they're probably profiting from the selling as well. Like their equity is probably worth more.
Little bit. Little bit.
Okay.
But about maybe around 4% higher than what they bought it at.
Okay, so when do repos happen? Is that when they just can't pay it at all? Like, can someone who's about to get repoed not sell it?
Well, when something is repossessed, technically the owner isn't selling it. It's the bank that's selling it.
So why can't the owner sell it?
They should have done. It's normally the case where they haven't sold it in enough time. Because even if
maybe they insisted that we're gonna get the money and we're gonna do it, and maybe fall back on more payments.
There's a limit to the bank, right? The bank will always say, okay, well, you've not paid your mortgage in 2 months. What's the problem? Or you can't afford it anymore. No problem. Sell your house. And the banks are quite lenient. They will say, okay, we'll give you 6 months to a year to sell your house. If in that period of time they've not sold the house, khalas, done. Take them back.
Is that the same like everywhere, like America and Europe? And
I don't know about the legalities in America.
Okay. But repo generally works the same way?
Generally, yeah. Okay. If the bank feels like you're not paying them back, all they need to do is turn around, get some of these legal documents signed, board up the windows and the doors, give you no access to that property anymore, and they'll track you down as well. They'll find a way to get that money out of you.
Okay, and since then, so the property market was peaking in COVID, around COVID time,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were probably selling their properties to profit from this peak. And since then, where has the market gone? Like,
So that period of time, 2022, fantastic year all the way around the country. Every estate agent would have done really, really, really well.
2022 was bad for stocks, I think. For stocks, I think it was a bad year.
Don't know.
Okay, I
Don't know.
remember my stocks were doing bad at least.
Well, I'd
So-
imagine businesses maybe weren't doing great after the recovery from COVID, especially if businesses had to stay open. Maybe they weren't doing as well, but property, the industry, real estate industry, it continued on during the lockdowns because you could value something from your house. You can put it on the market by sending a photographer out or getting an owner of the property to do their own photos, and you can put it on the market that way. Yeah, so the industry didn't take a massive hit.
Okay.
Everyone just learned how to work from home.
Okay, so since COVID, which was a peak, it's peaked even more now. It's gone
So-
up higher.
So no, we'll go through that. But what's happened is, and I'll take you year by year. So COVID and just after COVID, phenomenal, because the interest rates were nice and low. Everyone wanted to sell. Properties were coming on and selling like hotcakes. I mean, I remember properties that we put on the market, and there was one property that had 27 viewings on one day.
Wow, how do you even like fit that? Like, is it like a crowd in the house?
Yeah, it was an empty house, luckily, and we just, as people came in, we just waved them in. They had a look
And this
around.
was in Manchester?
This was, at the time, I was in Chiswick in London.
Oh,
but
okay, London.
I've had similar situations in Manchester.
And
where
what time of year was that? Was it like September, like, you know, back to school, back to university, stuff like that, or?
It was the summertime, that one.
So it's probably people looking
July,
for
August.
stuff for like next year, for like next academic year.
Yeah,
probably.
potentially. That area, that particular property, it flew out. But even in Manchester, there were certain properties that we dealt with that were very similar. So 22, phenomenal year. 23, halfway through 23, up until around September 23, again, really, really great market. Interest rates were still very low. I don't know if you remember this, but in 2023 September, we had Liz Truss come in.
Oh yeah, when she came for
around
like
that
2 weeks
time.
or something.
Yeah. Well, she didn't outlive the lettuce. She did something which was called a mini budget, which essentially collapsed the economy, mini collapse, and the interest rates went from 1% to 3%, even as a maximum, right up into 7% on average. So imagine
What,
if
the interest rates became 7%?
7%
From
on a mortgage.
1%?
Yeah,
Because of what?
because of her mini budget that she put into place.
So what is that mini budget?
I don't have enough time to explain it to
Okay,
you.
yeah,
I don't understand it fully myself.
Yeah.
But all I know is the Bank of England, they do a review on the base interest rate based on inflation every 3 months. And at that time, I don't know if it was because of maybe it was just the lasting effects of COVID, maybe it was the mini budget that she'd put into place, but the interest rate at that time went from around 2.5% on average to 7%.
That is crazy. And how long did that 7% stay on for? There's probably people who got fixed rates at 7% as well, right?
Yeah, so but those
Maybe
people,
they thought it's going to go higher.
those people will benefit today because now it's come down to 4.5%. So if they fix their rate at 7% and then they come to refix it today, it will come down, their monthly amount going out will come down massively.
Yeah.
But the people
But they've
that,
been overpaying for like the amount, the 2 years or whatever.
yeah, but they would have gone into that knowing that they can afford that. So if their expenses come down, their
So like
lifestyle
in girl
becomes
math,
better.
it's great.
Yeah, in girl math, it is great. Their lifestyle will become better after that. The amount of money that
Everything
they
is
can put to one
relative.
side. Yeah, 100%. I think as where we are right now, things calmed down in 2024, and since sort of the middle of 2024, I'd say Q2 2024, Q3, we've had a very, very steady market. Things are coming on at a very appropriate price. things are selling at appropriate prices, and the average inflation rate has sort of balanced out. So instead of being 2% or 7%, it's balanced to 4.5%, which I think
Is relatively normal.
is where it should be for the economy to
I think
to
like
be
a
okay.
normal interest rate is like 3 point something percent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say
So we're like almost there.
yeah. I mean, back in the
Like
day,
when it's too low, you get like inflation. When it's too high, people like lives get ruined. So
dude, but I mean, in 2023, when those interest rates changed, the number of clients that we had saying, "Hey, man, we've got 7 properties, we need to sell them all," and then none of them
when
would
the
sell.
interest rates
Were really high
Okay.
because they couldn't afford the mortgage payments anymore. If they had 2 or 3 properties, 2 were
So
buy
these
to
were
let.
what, like single people or companies? Like these are
All of them.
Okay.
All of them started coming. Landlords, owners, families, they all
Because they
started
probably
coming.
like maybe people who are like buying to let, the rental is not like covering this mortgage anymore. Like it's not making sense. So even
Yeah.
if they have money or whatever, it's not like making sense.
It doesn't make sense. No, if your mortgage payment has just gone up to £1,000 a month, but you're only making £900 per month on your rental, you're losing money on that investment, and it doesn't make sense to have it. So, what do? You sell it.
And what about the capital appreciation? Was that like at a
about it?
better rate than the interest rate?
I don't understand the question.
Like if you are paying 1,000 a month and making 900 in rent, but the property might be gaining value. So was the value gained worth it or no? Is the main thing the cash flow basically?
It's situational. There's no good answer to that. Yeah, it's situational. I would say most people at that time, if they sold, it's either through desperation or it was because of cash flow. So when I say desperation, I mean that's probably your single income household. That's one family, one property they've owned, and their interest rate is jumping from 2% to 7%, and they can't afford it, and they have to sell it and downsize. The other type of person might have been a landlord where they have 2 or 3 properties, they're no longer making a profit on it. However, they bought it 10 years ago when the house is worth 200,000 and now it's worth 350,000. So it made sense to sell it. Because you're right, the capital appreciation in that scenario would mean they could make money.
So overall, like the market has gone up since COVID, right?
What does that mean?
Like average property value, like the graph has gone up.
Yeah.
The chart. Whatever.
Yeah. So average property price will always go up. It's not gone up as quickly as it was going up. So it's sort of plateaued a little bit.
Okay. But it is still going up.
But it's still going up.
And what about, I heard that like in some places like Birmingham, the property value has gone up like significantly compared to like before.
I don't know about Birmingham.
Like I've heard that it used to be really cheap, and that now it's like, because now they're opening some bank headquarters there, and it's like changing up over there.
Birmingham is the worst city in the country, in the world. I wouldn't even want to live there ever in my life. But what's happening in Birmingham is happening around the world. Around the UK. Every single major city, every major hub, Liverpool, London, Manchester, even places like Newcastle and Hull. Anywhere where there's a lot of business right now, there will also be a massive increase in property value. For example, look in the local area, you know Ancoats? It's Manchester 4, the postcode M4.
Okay.
It's just north of Northern Quarter. It's just outside the city centre technically. The value of one of the top floor apartments, it's like a deluxe apartment.
Is it near Rudy's Pizza?
Right next to Rudy's Pizza.
Yeah.
£650,000
For one bedroom?
for I think it's 2 or 3 bedrooms, but it's a duplex apartment, penthouse,
Like
that
2
kind of thing.
floors?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go back to the 90s, I told my father recently, I said to him, let's go to Ancoats, there's some really nice bakeries, there's some really nice coffee places. And he said, if I went to Ancoats when I was younger, I would have been stabbed. So back in the day, those houses, even 20 years ago, would only have been worth
maybe council housing.
£25,000-30,000. And yeah, it was riddled with ex-local authority properties. But now it's 650. In the next 10 years, who knows, that could hit 1 million very easily.
In 10 years, 1 million? Is that a lot?
A lot. Yeah, for anything that
400K
isn't London,
yeah.
anything that isn't London, if you hit 1 million, it's a lot. If you go out to the Bolton area, which is one of the areas that I've been working in recently, if you're putting 1 million into a property, you're getting acres of land. You're getting, you know,
To be fair, you could have
5,
like a
6
house in
bedroom.
Surrey for that much, like a small house in Surrey.
Yeah, but
So instead
I
of an
mean,
apartment in Manchester.
a small house in Surrey. Why would you spend 1 million on a small house in Surrey when you can come to the north of
in a
England?
city centre and like.
You can spend 1 million on a house, get a 6-bedroom mansion with land, with, you know, I mean, there are some properties out in Bolton.
No, but you're talking about a 3-bedroom apartment, not a mansion.
Yeah, well, but
Like the mansion
that's
would be
10
in
years
the
from now.
northern countryside, I guess.
Yeah, technically. But
I mean, even like Buckinghamshire, you could
at
get
this,
a big house
at
there.
this stage, that apartment is only worth 650. I'm imagining that in about 10 years, it could be worth closer to 1 million, as long as nothing crazy happens to the economy.
So, I mean, you know how everyone says, and we kind of see that everyone says like the UK is going down, like, you know, all this phone theft and stabbings and petty crime,
Yeah.
which is really like pathetic.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, how is this not like putting investors off or like making the house prices go down or like the economy go down more or something like that?
From what I've seen, foreign investment helps a lot. I can't remember the exact figures. I actually did my master's degree on foreign investment in the UK. It's something close to about 17 or 18%.
I mean, Qatar owns like half of London and like
all of Heathrow Airport. But
Heathrow, I think Saudi's PIF has bought it or planning to buy it, I think. 40% of it.
We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
They're doing an expansion on Heathrow, by the way. Have you heard? They're adding another lane where planes can come and take off. So that'll be interesting.
I think
to
I
see.
might have heard of some expansion. I'm not sure exactly.
So, do you know there's a building around here somewhere? It's called Vista Gardens. Have you seen it? They're building it now. They're in the middle of build. They're probably about 70% done. That property has 50 something floors. It's going to be the tallest building in Manchester. Already, everything's bought.
Wow.
Or
50 floors.
Everything's bought in there.
Wow.
There's maybe only 5% left.
And how much are like the apartments going for? Like 500,000, 400?
There are some for 500,000. There's some for more than 500,000. The average 2-bedroom in that 2-bedroom, like normal flat, like similar to these ones here, like size wise, £350,000. £350,000. Even in 10 minutes outside of Manchester, in like let's say Prestwich, £350,000 will get you a big 3-bedroom detached house.
Fully
So,
detached.
Fully detached. The value of properties in this country are going up at an extremely high rate compared to the rest of the world, because we've not got as much land, we've not got as much building capabilities, and we have too many people. Every single one of those properties in the Vista Garden, every single one of those flats in the Vista Garden building, I'm going to assume anyway, the majority of the investment.
And right now it's not built, so these are 350,000 off plan.
Off plan.
So when it gets done, it'll be probably easily 600.
I don't know what the immediate increase is going to be. It might not be an immediate increase, but I'm going to assume that a lot of the properties that have been bought already are foreign investment. And I'm going to assume that the majority of those in there will already be planned to be rented out to someone else.
To students or to young professionals or something.
Who knows, man? Anybody and everybody that can afford it.
I mean, Manchester is a busy city. It has like a top university, has multiple universities for whatever. And then what I've also noticed is that in the UK, rent seems to just always be high. Even if like the property price is lower, the rent doesn't get much lower. So if you are a real estate investor, is it a good idea to just buy like as cheap as possible, like Scotland, Edinburgh, like north, and then rent it out instead of buying something in London for like millions and renting it out for like a little bit more than that?
The average rental yield in London will be around 4, 5 or 6%. If you can get an 8% yield in London, you're flying. The average yield here in Manchester right now Around 12%.
12%.
12%. 12%, yeah. It's insane because obviously the prices in Manchester are not comparable
Are
to
like
the prices in
fraction
London.
of London.
A
And the rent
fraction.
is like the same almost.
Rent is similar. Rent is similar.
So
yeah.
why? I don't understand, like,
It's the demand for the rent.
so why is the property... So I guess there's just a lot of demand from renters and not buyers.
Yeah.
So that's perfect for like someone who wants to rent out. Wow.
Yeah.
So it is too, like, I thought this must be too good to be true. So it turns out it is true.
In the north and anywhere that isn't London, if you take London out of the equation, the UK is a fantastic investment opportunity for anybody, specifically foreigners, because obviously you've got a lot of money outside this country. You've got a lot of money in, let's say, the Middle East. I mean, the majority of investors that we've been dealing with in my areas are Chinese, Nigerian, and Arab.
Nigerian.
Nigerian, yeah, funnily enough. They'll come in, they'll buy a place cash or 90% cash, 10% mortgage, and they'll have that rented out straight away. And they'll be making money on it straight away, which is important. Mm-hmm. Whereas in London, where I used to work, in Chiswick area, you would buy a flat for £600,000. That's a 2-bedroom, right? And that's not even central London. That's on the...
I mean, it's quite central. Chiswick. It's pretty central.
West
it's like zone
4?
2.
Zone 3. Yeah, zone 2 or 3. I can't remember which one. But then, you know, your rental capability there, it would be higher than here, but your yield would be lower.
Because, like, you're not going to find many people who are willing to pay like 5,000 a month or something for like the amount of money you've paid for the flat or house.
Yeah. You'll find in lettings there's a very quick decline. So what I mean by that is anything from like £1,500 a month and lower, it will be rented out very quickly. Very quickly.
Because there's way more people who are able to pay that.
Way more people. And if you can buy a property and have it on a mortgage where you're only paying 800, 900 or even £1,000 a month and your rental is 1,500, guess what? That's 500 you're banking. Even with expenses, you know, you put maybe another 100 or 200 pounds aside, you're still banking 300. The property pays for itself. You've made a profit, which
and
is
you're gaining
important.
equity.
And you're gaining equity. But you'll find that anything over maybe 2,000, 2,200, there's a quick drop off. There's only a few people that can afford that. There was a 5-bedroom property we've been dealing with recently. It's a big sort of, you know, big mansion style property. We put it on the market for renting at £3,100 per month. Even though I told the landlord to do it at 2,700, he didn't want to listen to me. He said, no, we have to try 3,100. That's okay, no problem.
And how much is it worth, the property?
Buying?
Yeah.
Maybe around 900,000.
Okay.
But he bought it at 600,000 and did it up. So
Okay.
that's a good equity, that's a good yield. He has managed to find a tenant at £2,850 a month.
So how much, do you know how much he spent on doing it up?
He probably spent around 70 something.
Okay, so like around 700k, and I mean that's around 6%.
I couldn't tell you the exact figures right now, but it's a good rental figure right there. He won't be losing money on that mortgage.
So is the best place to basically buy to rent out, basically, like northern city centers, sort of, like not like countryside.
Liverpool is a fantastic opportunity right now for anyone.
What kind of yields are you looking at in Liverpool?
Around similar to one to Manchester, because the prices aren't as high as Manchester yet, and you've got tons of young professionals there, tons of them, but the rental figures are similar to Manchester. Do you understand?
That's what I noticed about Cambridge, because Cambridge is like 50-minute train to London, and the property prices are like, for like 250k you can buy like a 1-bedroom flat, maybe even 2-bedroom in like a little worse area, and the rent is like 1,200 or something like that. Reasonably high yield. It's around 6%. Everything turns out
Yeah.
around 6%. But
We'd need a f***ing calculator is what we need, bro. I can't believe we're sat here without a calculator. But all I know is if I was to invest right now, I wouldn't be looking at London at all. At all.
what would you look at? Liverpool,
I'd look at Liverpool.
Edinburgh?
No. Edinburgh's too high as well.
Too high?
Yeah. If I was going to invest in a property today, right now, it would probably be Liverpool. Because the price to buy a property in Liverpool is not as high as Manchester, but the rental figures are similar.
What kind of price are you looking at for like a one-bed apartment
In Liverpool,
in a decent area? Near like a school or workplaces or university, I mean.
like there's a whole bunch of new builds over there as well, similar to the ones that we're seeing in Manchester. Anywhere from 135, 140,000 pounds up to 170,000
That's really
pounds.
good.
Yeah.
What about the apartments in Nine Elms? You know Nine Elms in London? There's all these near like the Battersea power station.
Okay, yeah.
Like not the power station. The power station itself are expensive, but behind there's like
I couldn't
these
tell you.
off-plan properties that are like at attractive prices.
I really couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I'd need to look into it a little bit more. The only reason I know the Liverpool ones is because I've been dealing with some of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how would you? We'll finish off soon, but how would you compare like the UK real estate market to like America, for example?
The way I'd say it is America is probably a lot more personable. So, for example, if I was a real estate agent in America, one, I'd have to get a license, whereas here I don't need one. There, I'd have to go out and find my own client. So, for example, let's say you're a random
There's
client.
no like real estate agents or anything?
There is, but it's more popular to be your own independent, self-employed, because you make more money. So, for example, let's say you were a client and I approached you and I said, you know, Abdullah, have you got a property to sell for me? Or that I can sell for you, I can rent out for you, whatever it may be. And then it would just be me on my own handling everything from start to finish, right? So let's say you said, I have this property, I need to sell it. And then I say, okay, you can achieve $650,000 on that, but we want 2% commission. So 2% of £650,000, what is that?
2% of 650,000, like 12,000.
About 13,000 on the dot, right? So $13,000. That means you have to pay me $13,000 on completion. Whereas over here in the UK, it's more saturated as a market. There's tons more estate agents that you can use. You know, the competition is very high. You tend to be able to get a fee around the 1% figure. Plus that. So if I'm selling the house for £650,000, we will only take 6,500, which is obviously better than 2%. You will tend to find that things are slower here as well. Whereas in America, if you sell a house, it can get turned over in about a month, 6 weeks. You know, do all the solicitor paperwork, all the checks and everything. Over here, if I've sold a house, it's going to take me at least 4 months to complete, and that's without any problems. With problems, things have been taken. Like I've had properties that I've been going through for a year, which is absolutely insane.
In the UK, a property for a year unsold, nothing going on with
No,
it?
no, no. Like it's sold, and still
the
it takes a
paperwork is
full
taking
year.
a year?
Yeah, because maybe one person's moving into this house, and then another person is moving into this house, and then another person, and it chains up, and then maybe we lose a buyer, then we find another buyer, then something's wrong with the paperwork here. This needs
So
to be.
why is that happening? Like, is there a fix for that? Like, what's the problem?
There's a joke in the estate agency about solicitors. The solicitors take forever to do everything, anything whatsoever. Yeah, but again, just to finish up that earlier question,
Are these usually state solicitors, like, or like private?
they're normally private solicitors.
Okay.
Yeah, like you pay them money to do a service
Okay.
that takes 6 months,
That's ridiculous.
sometimes longer. But so yeah, to finish up the answer to your original question, the difference between America and the US and the UK. In America, it's very personable. It's one person that will handle most things, whereas here it's a firm, right? So it'll be a full branch. You know, let's say I was valuing the property, I would go out, value the property, explain to the client the whole, you know, start to finish process, what our fees are, what we're going to do to help them. They would then instruct us, they would instruct the branch, and then a lot of the negotiations and stuff happen with the team in the office. The viewings all happen separately. I wouldn't really be going out and doing all
And
that.
in terms of how lucrative it is America more lucrative? Like, if you could invest in the UK or America, like, which one would you rather? I feel like the houses in America look nicer and bigger.
Yeah, you know, if you look at America, especially the more you head west, you always tend to have bigger and better. I know that New York is extremely
It's
competitive.
like London, basically.
It
New York is
yeah.
like an anomaly, but
Yeah,
apart
yeah.
from New York.
Did you know that if you took London out of the UK, it would become a third world country?
The UK would become a third world
But
country?
based on salary and expenses and savings.
Wow.
Yeah, it would become similar to a third world country.
That is crazy. You heard it here first.
If you took London out of the UK, genuinely, with the amount of
But
money
the
that comes
UK,
in-
London itself is like a third world country. Like, the crime there.
The crime there is
Apart
insane,
from the
yeah.
crime, like, London's pretty decent, I think. But
well,
the
not when you're
crime-
clutching your phone as you're walking down the
Yeah.
road. You know what I mean? It's insane.
like, imagine paying 95,000 for a penthouse in Knightsbridge, and you can't like walk to the Sainsbury's to get like a juice without like getting,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
without fearing for your life.
if I was looking at it from a buying perspective, me personally, I think America. I think North America, even Canada is an option. I know there's a lot of legalities and stuff as a UK citizen.
I mean, Canada's becoming like a crack den country, sort of. Like, I mean, like, shout out to the friends in Canada, but I saw like these documentaries where there's like I think they like legalized some stuff and it just went like out of control or something.
Yeah. I heard
Fentanyl or
we won't get into it too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I was just planning to just make money, maybe the UK. If it was just purely an investment, like I'm not going to think about it. But in terms of longevity, where I want to be, where I would want to stay, America, man, every day, and it would be somewhere in like some random place like Wyoming.
Oh.
Send me to Wyoming, man. I'm just going to chill out there in the countryside and have no one disturb
I
me.
need that food in like Miami or something, you know.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. I would want to keep going on, but we're running out of time now.
My mouth's getting dry.
Yeah. I can see you're getting tired now.
Well, I'm knackered.
So thank you very much for your time. It was a very interesting conversation with you. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment your thoughts below.
If I said anything that's not correct, don't blame me, bro. I was making it up.
Do you want to shout out yourself? Like anything? No? All right. No shout out.
Go to the gym. Stop being lazy.
Yeah. Yes. And do boxing? Why not?
If you want to.